Welcome to the No Budget Indie Filmcast, where we dip into the independent film universe to highlight those little films that you might not have heard about elsewhere. Will you agree with our panel? Or will they even agree with each other? You have to tune in to find out. I am Milo Dennison, and with me, as always, is Claire Milan.
Hello.
And joining the two of us is Cathal Feeney.
Hello.
All right, we're getting spooky with this film, a short horror film by writer and director Jacob Chase. So the film follows Joe, played by Joe Calarco, something like that. Follows Joe. And what he is he's a parking attendant at a parking lot. And it's nighttime, it's very late. There's only one car in the parking lot. And he's twirling around in his chair and he finds a box of, lost and found box, and pulls out of the lost and found box a tablet, an iPad, and there's a digital book on it. He starts reading the digital book, and it's a horror book, and it kind of goes into Larry lives behind the window, he can see you, and then is there possibly something in the parking lot that now is happening because of the book that Joe's reading? And that's where the suspense comes from. So I can't say too much else about it without really spoiling the film. It's reasonably short. It's actually only about a little over 5 minutes long. So it's impressive that Jacob was able to actually create some suspense in such a short period of time, because one of the things that makes horror films work is that suspense, that buildup of like something bad is going to happen, and when's it going to happen, and how's it going to happen? And that's really hard to do in a short period of time because you've got to get through the story. And so I was actually pretty impressed with the fact that they were able to actually build some suspense in this film. And I think it works well because it's very simple. It's the one location. He's in the little parking booth. There's not a lot going on around him other than the book and what's happening outside of the booth. And it works really well. The sound effects, I think, work really well. There's not a lot of music or anything. There's just these sound effects of the squeaky chair, the stuff happening around him, and that helps build the suspense as well, leading up to the creepiness that happens at the end, which I guess I can't really get into without spoiling too much more of the film. Yeah.
And it's interesting because the way I hate horror films,
Yeah.
because my heart it's too much, but no, I did really enjoy this, and there's actually no dialogue in it, I don't think, anyway, or very little. I think there's some background dialogue.
Yeah, there's like some background dialogue of the people walking past at one point or something, I think. Yeah.
But I watched it twice, because
wow.
it was actually perfect length as well, because there was no filler scenes in it or bits. It kind of just everything adds to it, and everything adds to the suspense. And I think it's actually really, really well shot, and with the sound effects and the light, and even the book, like he finds it's a children's book, and that makes it really creepy, And I love the way they filmed. There's certain angles they filmed that as well, like there's in the box when it's the lost and found, and they filmed underneath, like he's looking down into the box. So there's really, really good angles, which adds to suspense, and there's a build up. And he's sitting, don't worry, I won't spoil it, but he's sitting in the booth, and just the whole, you're like, oh my God. And then it's quiet, and all of a sudden you hear this girl laughing. It's like, oh my God, my heart jumps, And and we won't say anything, but at the end you do feel like, oh God.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's creepy, and it's kind of a perfect little horror film in one way. Like, I'm really impressed with it. Like the lighting, the directing, the acting.
Yeah, the special
really
effects even I thought were really well done.
Yeah, it's really high quality. Like, it doesn't look cheap. It looks like a lot of money to put into this film. And even with the book and the creature, he's so scary. Like the way they thought out of how he'd look, in the book, and like his hunched over, and then when they show the words on screen, because sometimes when they show bits of books on screen, you have to pause it or something, when trying to read it, but they just had it perfectly timed where you could read it, and you get the sense of, oh God, this is really creepy. There'll be build to it, and I think it works so well.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of horror films either. I can appreciate them, but I just don't like the sensation of being scared. You know? And I feel that they're kind of manipulative as well. Like they're trying to manipulate your emotions, and in that regard, this film does it quite well. Like as you say, it does sort of build a suspense, and for a horror film to work, it's about what isn't happening. It's about using your imagination on you. You know, you're waiting all the time, waiting. You know, and then something happens, and then that's not it, and then it suddenly it actually ratchets up the suspense. So, like for such a short film, it does do it. It does do it very well. But I was also just thinking, is like, you know, what is a horror film? And it says it's something that tries to generate a fear in the audience. Now, when I think of horror, I don't necessarily think of just that, because like there are suspense thrillers that would do the same thing. Like, so I wouldn't consider something like Silence of the Lambs or Psycho a horror, even though they do the same thing. When I think of horror, I think of, you know, sort of something that uses sort of, I don't know, the supernatural, and it really goes out of its way to scare the bejesus out of you. And I don't know what you think of that, like as a horror. And what would you consider a horror film?
Yeah, I agree. Like, to be a horror, it definitely has to scare you to an extent. So you're right. I probably Silence of the Lambs I would consider more of a suspense thriller, not a horror film. Psycho, you could go both ways on that. I could see that one, but this one certainly checks all the boxes for a horror film. I mean, it's got the supernatural aspect of it. It's got the jump scares aspect of it. It's got that kind of building what's going to happen suspense thing that makes you worried. The little sounds here and there. So it certainly checks all the boxes, in my opinion, of what a horror film is.
And there's something kind of comedic about it, like about that character. And there was some things that he did, like, and what, you know, without giving too much away, why did he open the door? You know?
Oh, I know, totally, the window. Yeah.
Like, and he had to sort of like, but it still didn't sort of, it didn't lose its sort of suspense anyway because of that.
It's funny, they hit like points very clearly within the narrative. Like, he clearly showed his watch, so he knew exactly what time it was. You know, it was 3 a.m. So it sets it up so well. There was no vagueness in it. You know, it was like he had the watch, and then lost and found box. You know exactly what everything was, and then it kind of when you kind of think, he's all right. There's nothing there. Bang! It hits you, and that's why sometimes I find horror films hard to watch, because, you know, they're just, the jump scare is just it's too much sometimes, you know. But I must say, I am a big fan of the X-Files. You know, I don't know if the X-Files kind of goes into horror in some episodes.
And occasional,
you know,
episodes that would fall into that genre, I guess. Yeah.
But I suppose, I don't know, would you call that more X-Files, more suspense thriller,
sci-fi suspense, I suppose, maybe.
Yeah, but
there's definitely a sort of a crossover there. But even with this film, like the fact that the setting, you know, even without the horror aspect of it, it is creepy.
And even when they had the wide angle of the car in the very far distance, and then when the two people pass by and they go into the car, and there's only one light working on it, you know, just little details like that I thought really worked really well.
Yeah, he definitely knows how to make a horror film. I mean, he knows what goes into making a horror film, isolating a person, darkness, like everything like that. And generally, sometimes I don't like horror films that do go a little too heavy on the jump scares, because it gets kind of old and it's kind of cliche of like, okay, how can we wind this person up, make him think that something's going to happen, let it not happen, and then let it happen again later on, you know, to give that a little bit of emotional roller coaster. But that's, I think, the nice thing about this being so short is that it doesn't do too much of it, because it can't. It doesn't have the length to do it, you know?
Exactly.
All right. So ratings time?
So for me, I think it's really, really high quality, the way it's filmed, the lighting and the sound effects, extremely well thought out. So it's a 4-star for me.
My praise indeed. Like, I mean, as I said, because I don't like particularly like horror films anyway. I'm not sure what to give this. Like and we haven't even reviewed that many horror films over the years, so it's hard to even like judge it against something else. But I once I appreciated it, I didn't go away thinking, wow, that was amazing, that was brilliant. So I will give it 3 stars.
Yeah, kind of a toss-up too. It's really well done, but it is a bit too much by the book horror film. But the fact that he was able to accomplish that within 5 minutes, to me, I'm gonna go 4 stars, I think. But yeah, I'm gonna go 4 stars. I feel okay with that answer.
Yeah, especially in the genre it's in. If you take the genre and what he achieved and was able to do and the quality, I think it's definitely a 4-star.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not definitely.
It's
definitely
in my
for
opinion and my lows.
That's fine. I wanted to pick something that we didn't all agree on, so that's good. So there you have it. No Budget Filmcast audience. We liked it, and we think you should see it. 3 stars by Cahill means he liked it somewhat as well. So definitely check it out. And we'll throw the link, of course, into the notes so you can have a watch. It's available on YouTube. And with that, I guess we will say, be sure to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook at No Budget Show, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Bye.
But